And don't let people who you may respect and who you believe know what they're talking about, don't let them tell you it can't be done. Because often they will tell you it can't be done, and it's just because they don't have the courage to try it.
You have to have an emotional investment in what you're doing. If you don't love what you're doing, failure is pretty much guaranteed. Success is not guaranteed by any means, but failure is much more likely if you don't love what you're doing.
If you know exactly what you want to be, you need to spend as much time with people that are actually that already.
Welcome back, Wealth Tubers. In today's stock market update, tech stocks are leading the charge, with Nvidia hitting a new record high, driving the overall market higher. As we take a closer look at the latest market movements, we'll break down how Nvidia's performance is impacting the tech sector and what this means for investors. From the surging growth of chip makers to broader trends in the tech industry, we've got all the details. Stick around for insights and strategies to help you navigate these exciting times in the stock market. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Let's dive in.
The Fed cut interest rates by 100 basis points. We also saw the 10-year yield tick up 100 basis points. So it is something that we're watching, but we think that it'll stay around the 4.5 to 4.75 over the next year.
U.S. stocks largely rose as chip names popped and investors awaited the release of key monthly jobs data earlier this week. The S&P 500 was up about 0.5%, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell about 0.1% after being higher for most of the session. The tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite led the gains, adding about 1.2% after a tech-led rally. Chip stocks rallied after a record revenue and a strong sales forecast from Nvidia server partner Foxconn, which boosted optimism for AI-fueled growth. Shares of Nvidia climbed more than 3% as the stock closed at a record high. Meanwhile, Pure Micron Technology rose over 10%. The upbeat mood kicks off the first full week of 2025 for traders, highlighted by the release of the December non-farm payrolls report. But it's another shortened week, as stock markets close to mourn the death of a former president. The benchmark 10-year Treasury yield was up around 2 basis points to hover around 4.62% after the Washington Post reported that President-elect Donald Trump's team is exploring more limited tariffs than anticipated. At the same time, the dollar dropped sharply as markets recalculated the potential inflationary impact of the incoming president's plans. The index later paired some of its losses after Trump called the Washington Post report wrong. On the corporate front, Disney confirmed it will combine its Hulu Plus live TV business with sports streamer Fubo TV in the first major media deal-making move of 2025. Fubo shares soared nearly 250%, while shares in Disney were little changed.
Nvidia hits another record close.
We do have to worry about the risks. The risks to me are twofold. One is the potential for the economy to falter. We've seen some small cracks form, but those could worsen. I mean, let's face it, monetary policy tightening was very aggressive.
Shares of Nvidia climbed more than 3% as the stock closed at a record high of $149.43 after a record revenue and a strong sales forecast from server partner Foxconn sparked a rally. The stock is now up more than 9% in the past 5 days. A good sign in earnings revisions. One of the key themes of the past month of market action has been big tech stocks keeping the market afloat while other stocks have stumbled. A similar trend of mega-cap tech outperformance has played out in earnings revisions too. It was pointed out in a note to clients that over the past 90 days, the combination of Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, Broadcom, and Tesla have seen earnings revised up by an average of 5.1%. Conversely, in the same time frame, the S&P 500 has seen earnings revised down by 2.7%, while the 10 largest non-tech stocks have seen earnings revised down by 2.8%. Analysts' fundamental confidence in these names is a good sign, given that they represent over a third of the S&P and therefore have an outsized impact on the index. One expert notes, "We remain positive on U.S. big tech, given their superior earnings momentum." Nvidia stock extended gains, with shares set to surpass their previous all-time closing high. The stock climbed nearly 5% to trade at around $151. The chip maker reached its previous record close of $148.88 a share on November 7th. Investors are anticipating more updates on the rollout of the company's Blackwell chips, which analysts say will drive a massive new cycle of demand despite fears over an AI spending slowdown.
Stocks rally as dollar takes a breather.
The U.S. dollar index moved lower, coming off its recent two-year high after the Washington Post reported that President-elect Donald Trump's tariff plans could be less broad than initially thought. Trump quickly responded on Truth Social, saying the report was wrong. The U.S. dollar index, which had been down as much as 1%, paired some losses and was off about 0.5% at last check. Both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Composite stock indexes were up more than 1%. The chief investment officer wrote that the dollar index has risen to a level that has the potential to weigh on equities with more significant foreign sales exposure. That group includes many of the key companies driving the lion's share of S&P 500 earnings growth. This, combined with the recent rise in the 10-year Treasury yield to 4.6%, could be a headwind for the broadening of the stock market rally beyond just large-cap tech stocks. Should the rise in rates and the dollar persist, one expert argues that 2025 could be a year of two halves, with the first half being more challenged before potential equity market-friendly policy changes, tax cut extensions/expansions, government efficiency reduces the term premium, etc., can have their desired effects.
Chip stocks rise after Foxconn's sales beat.
But we'll call it Foxconn just for ease of reference here, reported around $64 billion in their fourth quarter as far as its revenue. That was up 15%. Also was its fourth highest ever on record.
Chip stocks rose across the board after Taiwanese electronics contract manufacturer Foxconn reported December sales ahead of analyst expectations. The PHLX Semiconductor Index rose more than 3%, ahead of the Nasdaq's near 2% gain and the S&P 500's roughly 1% climb. Memory chipmaker Micron jumped 11%, while Broadcom rose almost 3% and Qualcomm ticked up close to 2%. Nvidia was up nearly 5% mid-morning, while AMD climbed more than 2%. Foxconn's performance is seen as an indicator for the chip sector because it manufactures products that need those chips to function. Foxconn assembles Apple's iPhones and data center servers for hyperscalers such as Google and Amazon using the world's most advanced chips, such as Nvidia's. Foxconn reported December sales of $654.8 billion new Taiwan dollars, $20 billion, a 40% increase from the prior year and 7% higher than consensus estimates. Stocks continued to build a strong start to the new year on Monday morning. The S&P 500 rose 0.8%, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average added 0.3%. The tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite led the gains, popping 1.2% after a tech-led rally. Tech led the charge in early trading, with shares of Nvidia and AMD rising more than 2% and Micron shooting higher by more than 9%. The chip names rallied after a record revenue and a strong sales forecast from Nvidia server partner Foxconn, which boosted optimism for AI-fueled growth. Thanks for watching, Wealth Tubers. If you enjoyed the update, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on future stock market insights. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you in the next one.